Welcome back to the NFL Trades Podcast. It's been a long time coming. Been way too busy. School's got me way too busy. I wish I could do more of this. Matter of fact, I got like 20. There's gonna be a 20, 30-minute episode because your boy has to go to class. We're gonna go quick here. We're gonna just do like a little like adjustments needed to be made by certain teams kind of segment here. I'll go through every team quick as possible. Probably like try to do it each team in a minute. Just talking about what do they need to do to better themselves going further. And this might be, and this is not just like okay, what do they need to do to make playoffs? This is what they need to do as a franchise to ensure that the future, whether that be in the next 5 years or next year or maybe next 10 years, just make sure that their franchise is in good hands and doing things that are advantageous for them. So let's start off with the Bengals. We figured out Bengals are just not a good September team. I'd like to say that, but you never know if they would have actually played good this year had Joe Burrow's calf not be as injured. You could tell when he was in the pocket, he just didn't get as much leverage or power through when he was throwing, and nothing was working out for him. You could just tell his mobility has just increased ever since, I guess you could say, ever since they stopped losing. I mean, they're on a 3-game win streak right now, so they're on the right track. They've been doing everything the way they needed to. Actually, they just lost their last game, but before that, they were on a 3-game winning streak, and it's not like their last that they sustained the other this weekend was all that bad. Adjustments that need to be made, I think. They need to spread out the offense, and they need to get Jamar Chase the ball and get it more in his hands, man. That's just like kind of all it comes down to. The O-line has been playing pretty good, and the defense has been playing over expectations. So it's all going to come down. I really believe, and this isn't like they'll get this happens. They start winning games. I mean, not start winning. They are automatically a contender for the championship team, or for the championship AFC. That's not true. This is just one of the smaller steps they need to take. There's some other bigger steps that they might need to take, but that would have to be something later down the road, and that would probably have to do with making certain transactions. But not really free agents they can go out and sign. They have a good enough team to win. It's just going to be a matter of how they present their offense and how they go about doing it. The defense has been playing good, in my opinion, and there's not much they can really do to change how their defense is going to play. But, I mean, they can only do so well. I mean, the pressures have been there phenomenally. It's going to be a matter of fact. I went way too long on the Bengals. But it literally just comes down to them getting Jamar Chase going, because it seems like it's not where he should be. Ravens, I think just everyone staying healthy is really all it kind of boils down to. Their offense kind of slowed down the second half against the Browns, and like that was something scary to see. But those are divisional games; those kind of always happen, where it's just like, one team will actually like completely understand what the other team is doing, and they'll slow them down. And then Browns offense got going, and they didn't stop, and they came back and won the game. And that might just happen with division games like that. It's kind of all it boils down to in divisional games. Yeah, they'll be fine. They just gotta stay healthy. Cowboys, I think it all boils down to how good Dak is playing, and if Mike McCarthy can continue his offensive play calling, but also be a head coach at the same time. So like, not making better decisions, especially down the stretch. I think Dak played one of his best games against the Eagles, and yet they still lost. And again, that's a divisional game. Like I said, divisional games are just kind of just like both teams understand each other, and it comes down to who's going to make the better plays at the end of it. Panthers gonna have to draft O-line for sure. Get weapons for Bryce Young. You got to figure out. You spent all this compensation, all these picks. You gave away all these picks to go get this guy. You better go see if he actually is your guy, because if not, then 2026, 2027, you're back in the QB carousel. Uh, Steelers, we know they're not doing making any splash in the playoffs, simply because of their offense, and uh, it does kind of start with getting rid of Matt Canada, going another year, seeing if Kenny Pickett is that guy. Kenny Pickett, always good in the fourth quarter, but it needs to start earlier. He needs to start like way earlier. I don't know what's the struggles with. And I mean, he's a good like Kenny Pickett would work immensely in a 49ers offense. He would work so well. He's a good distributor. He doesn't make these risky throws that, some teams need risky quarterbacks. Like the Steelers need a risky quarterback to make those risky throws. But the 49ers, they don't need something like that. They have all the weapons and the superstars that they just need the ball distributed to them, and they'll make the plays. Browns, they're kind of in the same boat. Inconsistent offense. But and now Deshaun Watson's out for the year, so your starter is out. So now you don't have that QB, and so like we've seen Browns, Ravens, when their starting QB kind of goes out, they're just kind of like out of contention, and that's just kind of what it comes down to. So I mean, Browns, gotta, I guess, get more weapons. I mean, Amari Cooper's been playing good. Just add more weapons. I mean, you're getting Nick Chubb back probably next year. Just add more weapons and just figure out if Mr. Deshaun is the guy, because you spent so many first round picks for this guy, and you gave him so much money. So you need to see if he is that guy, and so you have to spread him around with talent. It does suck when you because none of these all these teams that make these big trades or big signings, it just never pans out ever. Chicago, this is a very tough one. Some people will say Justin Fields needs to go. He's had his chance. He's had his opportunities. Other people will say that this guy deserves another chance. I think at the end of the day, he will get his other chance, but it will not be with the Bears. I think Eberflus needs to be fired. I think they need to hit the reset like completely, because like they hit the reset a couple years ago after 2018, and I think they're afraid of hitting that reset button again, and they think they can continue with what they have, but they have to be open to hitting the reset button again. And now, thankfully, they have that first round pick, so they can hit that reset button. They can trade away picks, or they can trade down. They can do whatever they want, build for the future. But they definitely have like a first round. They have all these first round picks, and maybe they go out and get someone like Marvin Harrison, and then keep Justin Fields and see how he does with a blue collar or a blue chip prospect. And maybe that's kind of all it comes down to. Maybe they'll see what he can do in this offense when he has someone like Marvin Harrison. And they still need to improve their line. They drafted a lineman first round, but like the O-line just hasn't been there. It hasn't been playing as well as we'd want them to for Justin Fields, because a lot of people came into the year thinking, oh, Justin Fields is a better O-line. He has some weapons now. DJ Moore. Nothing's been working out, and their defense has been playing horrible. So I mean, we kind of expected that one, but we'll have to see. Lions, they're in contention for the number 1 seed right now. For them, I think it's just continuing to accumulate picks and players, and just continue to do what you're doing. They're on the improvement side of things, so they're only going up right now. Now, when it comes to adjustments that they would make, I think, um, you know, I don't know, 'cause like they've been playing so good, and I mean their defense. We didn't expect them to play that great, anyways. But I mean they've done things. Maybe get that pass rusher, get another pass rusher aside from Aiden Hutchinson, and like put more pressure on teams. Carry with your D line. I know they've had a lot of injuries, especially in the secondary. So I mean they'll get some of those guys back. But yeah, I mean just continue to accumulate players. I mean they have the talent, man. They've been drafting for so many years, and they've hit on a couple guys, which is awesome to see. But they have to continue to do what they believe will put them in the right spot. And man, they're playing really good. Jared Goff's been playing really good, and it kind of just comes down to if Jared Goff can continue how he's been playing, then they'll be fine. Chargers, fire Brandon Staley and change around this entire defense. I think you got to keep Justin Herbert. I think a lot of people are hating on him, but again, he cannot play defense. He can't do everything for your team. He's not going to be the guy to carry your team, even when you don't have that type of defense. A lot of guys they didn't hit on Quentin Johnson, it seems like, but they'll keep trying to see if and keep trying to develop him, but they'll definitely have to go acquire some weapons offensively, and maybe they don't have Eckler next year, unfortunately. So they're just going to have to get some weapons and make some changes on the defense because it just hasn't been working out for them. Their defense has been playing very poor. So, I mean, they're 4-5 right now, so I don't see them doing anything in the playoffs or anything. So I think it really boils down to them making those changes on defense and putting talent around Herbert. Jordan Love, I think, with the Packers, they need to give him another chance after this year. I mean, the young receivers, they're working, they're developing, and maybe they're better next year or years after. But man, they need to fire Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator for the Packers. They have so much talent on the defense, and it just doesn't get utilized correctly. And no way you should be letting the Steelers put 17 points up on you in the first half when they've been averaging 6 points per game. It was literally like watching Matt Canada versus Joe Barry was literally like watching two checkers players play chess, bro. I mean, it just you should not be able to see something like that in the NFL, and he made Matt Canada look good. So I think at the end of the day, Joe Barry needs to be removed from office. Cardinals, again, this is going to be an accumulation thing. They need to accumulate picks. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not doing anything here. Still one of the worst teams in the NFL. I think Kyler Murray needs to stay. I think Gannon's he has been doing a good job despite, the 2-8 start. Just continuing to try and hit on these young guys. I mean, that's all I can say for the Cardinals. Their outlook has to be couple years versus, let's look at trying to win next year. Ossenfort's been doing, or I think Ozzy, whatever, I'm just going to call him Ozzy. He's been doing a really good job, especially he did good in the draft, and I think he's been making the right decisions. So with a guy like that, you can see maybe the Cardinals being back to where they were 2019, being back like that down the road. The Texans, this is exactly where the Cardinals would want to see themselves in 2 years. I mean, the Texans has been down where the Cardinals are at multiple times ever since 2020. This is the most wins they've had in a season ever since 2020. So, or 2019, sorry, with when Deshaun Watson was there. So C.J. Stroud looking like that guy. When it comes to moves, again, they're just going to have to continue to put talent around C.J. Stroud and bolster up that defense. It's all around the board. They're young. A lot of guys are developing. Maybe try to get some vets in there in free agency or trading. Which is funny to say because like just a couple years ago, you would have never seen Texans like wanting to trade for a veteran or signing a guy in free agency because are big names in free agency. So maybe now with C.J. Stroud being there, they'll attract some names, and so hopefully that's where they head to. Tennessee, continue to work with Will Levis. I think he's your guy. I think that's what you need to work on, and see what's going on with him. Again, I mean, D Hop has allowed the whole franchise to kind of see where he's at. And he's been making big throws. He's made some good throws. I mean, this O line is just one of the worst O lines we've seen in a while in the league. So I think we'll have to see how he can play with a better O line. So they got to do that. They got to work on that O line. That's something they can address in draft or through free agency, because this team can win, especially as someone right at the helm. Like unlike Ryan Tannehill, who just can't be it if you want to win playoff games. But definitely work on that O line. I think the defense is ample, so it's gonna come down to having that right O line. Jacksonville, very odd one. They're having their ups and downs. I think they've been having it all year offensively. I think what it boils down to is, can Trevor Lawrence be that top-tier quarterback? That's what they need from him. If they want to do something or make noise in the playoffs, they need Trevor Lawrence to show that he is a top-tier quarterback. The defense been playing way better than what we expected, and that's good. That's what you need for a playoff. If you want to win in the playoffs, you need a good defense. You don't need an amazing defense necessarily, but if you have that good defense and the top-tier quarterback, you can only go so far. So we just need better play from Trevor Lawrence. I think Doug Peterson's doing a good job. Raiders, weird one. They're currently 2-0 after firing Josh McDaniels. I think they made the right move firing Josh. We'll have to see who they decide to go with next year, coach-wise. But Antonio Pierce has just already asserted a new and fascinating culture that, we're seeing that from a lot of interim head coaches where it's like these teams are playing horrible, and then all of a sudden this interim coach comes in, has a whole different culture, and guys are just playing better, and are also enjoying themselves better. And it's cool to see, like, the Raiders are 5-5, which is odd because we thought they were in the pits of the lowest pits of hell, and Devontae Adams was so irritated, and it's not like, oh, it's just because they moved to an actual good, or they got their quarterback back or something. No, Jimmy Garoppolo and Eddie McConnell, there's not much of a difference there in skill wise. So maybe they get someone like a big veteran to come there and play for them next year. And maybe they get a big coach. But, again, we haven't seen much of that working around the league. The only time I can tell you when something like that worked was kind of like when Matthew Stafford came in and to the Rams and won his first year, and Tom Brady came in to the Bucs and won his first year. But typically that just doesn't work out for most teams. But for Raiders' sake, they need to I think now in hindsight, keeping Devontae Adams was actually the best thing that they could have done in the trade deadline. Miami, obviously, they have one of the best defensive minds in the NFL, but talent just hasn't been there. They have guys. It's not like they don't have guys. And I guess, with Jalen Ramsey coming back, he was able to, they were able to play better. They did hold the Chiefs, to minimal points in the second half, but their offense kind of slowed down. And the Chiefs showed that they have one of the best defenses, and now it's going to be very different. Where, like I said, if they have a good defense and a elite quarterback, they will make noise. So don't be surprised. I know the Chiefs' offense hasn't been playing that good, but don't be surprised if they are playing really good in the playoffs. But Dolphins, continue to make changes on the defense. I think their offense is there, and guys just need to be healthy. I couldn't tell you. I mean, Tua had one of his worst games against the Chiefs. Couldn't tell you why they're making these mistakes on offense all of a sudden. They were looking good, 6-1. Now they're 6-3. The Giants, yeah, they need to like completely change up their offense and they need to hit a little reset button. I think their defense is culminating to where they are developing and cultivating to the point where they they can do, keep the offense in games, but the play calling hasn't really been there, despite them having Brian Dable. But Daniel Jones needs to be gone, but they're probably not. They're probably going to retain him. But I think their offense needs to hit the little reset button. Washington, I think Hal is your guy. I truly do. He has a lot. He doesn't have the best of O lines, and he has some of the best. He has the most passing yards in the league, for a reason. But he's been sacked the most. I mean, how can you expect this guy to win you games if he's constantly running away, running out of the pocket, not able to make good throws? And he's not built for that. It's not like, oh, it's fine, Lamar's back there. He's not built for that type of game, and if you put him put him behind a good O line, like, he's going to excel. And they just need to, get a better O line, I think. Their defense has had good showings, but they still got to work on their defense. But again, this is not a teammate that's gonna make playoff push. Tampa Bay, they're getting older. Everyone's getting older. They're just gonna probably have to hit a reset button. Honestly, they've been playing good this year, but they're trying to hold on to something that it's like, because they have some good talent on the defense, but again, they're all older. They're only gonna get older. They need to probably hit the reset button down the road. I mean, they have a chance of making the playoffs here, especially considering how bad this NFC South is. So, but, I mean, Baker's been playing good, so I'll give him that. But again, they're all older. Baker's not getting any younger, so it's weird. San Francisco, I mean, we saw what they were without Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel, so I don't know what it kind of just comes down to, like, if they don't have their good players, they're not going to play good. So, I mean, as much as we like to say San Francisco has some of the best depth, they really don't. They're just so top heavy to the point where they're just that good. Because those stars their offense works so that if their stars are making plays, they're going to win the game, no matter what the other team kind of just does. It's kind of like guaranteed to win. San Francisco just has to keep playing good ball and D, which they've been known for, and Brock Purdy just has to be that distributor. He can't try to be anything more than that. He's been making great throws, and that's what we saw in the game back from the bye, but we'll have to see. Jets, got to worry about next year. You get Aaron Rodgers back. They have the pieces. We know that defense has been playing good. Robert Saleh has been coaching very well. So, I mean, they just have to look to next year, honestly. And I'm glad they didn't go out and get some random veteran in free agency. So, even though, Aaron Rodgers might come back this year, who knows? I don't think he will. But Buffalo, oh, what an odd one. Their whole game kind of just, like, leans on, like, Josh Allen. And, man, if like, Josh Allen isn't playing good, so, like, what his problem is he'll try and do heroic stuff when, they just need him to give the ball, to the right receivers and just, make the right decisions. He's just it's just superhero stuff that he just continues to try and do, considering some of their offense kind of like felt limited at times. Like, it felt like each guy was getting limited to their capabilities, and I guess that's why they ended up firing Ken Dorsey. Which, again, some people had him ranked in the top 5 of offensive coordinators, despite some of the lackluster games we've seen, from the offense. The defense, the defense is how the defense has been. I mean, maybe they get some secondary help But other than that, I mean, it's been good. They always seem to hit on linebackers, which is awesome. Um, Seattle. Again, Geno Smith's contract was 2 years, so or it's a 3-year contract, which can be 2 years. So I don't think you get rid of him after this year. And I know it sucks because he has the capabilities. But again, Seahawks has been. I mean, they're 6-3, so which is a great record. But do you see them contending or do no? You really don't. It's kind of similar to Pittsburgh, but their offense is way better. But I guess you can argue the Steelers' defense is better than the Seahawks. But Seahawks similar to Steelers and the Browns, where they're not making much noise in the playoffs, but they have to continue to find out like, can we make it more feasible for Geno Smith and continue. I mean, their defense has been playing really good, especially with the younger guys. So we'll have to see what they do. But they know like this year like is not going to be the year where they go and win the Super Bowl. Rams, I think Stafford's gone after this year. Again, this is kind of how we saw the record, and they had some good games, but if they want to go out and be a contender, be a playoff, they have to probably hit the reset button, which sucks. But we expected them to kind of try and do that this year, but they're not. The fact that Matt Stafford is now injured and he is, not going to be, coming back and winning them much games to get them in the playoffs, I think you need to let go of some of your talent and start to develop younger guys and let them get playing the experience. It sucks. It was awesome to see, like, oh, yeah, they still have these 3 guys, Kupp, and then, Nakua, you keep him. It was good to see, all 3 guys, Kupp, Donald, and Stafford, still playing at where we expect them to play, and it kept the Rams in a good position. But for us to expect that they play good, it sucks. It does suck. We'll have to see what they do here, but they probably should hit the reset button. Go back. Had to get to class the other day, so wasn't able to finish it in the 20 to 30 minute span that I had before my first class of the day. And my voice, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, but I'm a little sick, so this is how my voice is. I don't know if it sounds douchey or if it sounds better with a lower voice, but you got to do what you got to do, and you got to deal with what you got to deal with. So we had, it looks like 8 teams remaining. We're gonna jump. We started off with the Rams. We ended off with the Rams. We're gonna jump right back into it. We're gonna go to the Vikings. So the Vikings have already said that they haven't said this, publicly, but the report has come out that they're willing to stick with Kirk Cousins, which, by the way, we kind of knew that was still a capability. He's still playing like a top 10 quarterback. I mean, why get rid of him when you can win games with Kirk Cousins? You can win games with Kirk Cousins. You can win games with a top 10 quarterback. They just have to work on this defense. And I think that kind of is why they didn't get rid of Danielle Hunter, who is having one of his best years after he had requested a trade, right? Because, again, this team was kind of falling apart. They get rid of Dalvin Cook. They say we're sticking with Madison. What else? They didn't really worry about the defense as much in the draft as much as we'd like them to. We'd like for them to still work on the corner, the defensive back room, work on that secondary. They have the linebackers. They have Jordan Hicks. The D-line's pretty good. Even though they lost some guys, it's still there. It's still formidable. Still got Harrison Smith, who they can keep. They can retain him if they want. But they definitely, if they're in the draft, I mean, they're not going to do anything here. I mean, they don't have their top quarterback. I mean, Josh Dobbs has been great and all, but he's not gonna win you big games here down the stretch. And I mean, it's nice you're gonna have Justin Jefferson come back, and you can see where that takes you. But at the end of the day, I don't feel like this Vikings team can accomplish too much here in the later end of this, or in the end of the stretch. And I think in the draft they're gonna have to focus on making that defense better. I think they have the weapons. Maybe at some point try to get a running back. I know they tried at Dwayne McBride and they didn't see him as an instant impact, so they'll try to keep developing him. But the running game just hasn't been there this year. Fortunately, Kirk Cousins is good enough, and fortunately, they've had Justin Jefferson for a good bit of the year, and he was playing pretty good as well before his injury. But they lost a bunch of guys to injury, and that's kind of been hurting them, even though they, are on a 5-game winning streak, which is crazy because they had. I don't think it's a 5-game winning streak. Or it might be, but anyways, they had all their players, and they were just struggling so hard to win games. A lot of one-win games. And we talked about last year how they were 11-0 in one-possession games. Well, every game they've either won or it's been a one-possession game. So if they replicated what they did last year in that aspect, they would be undefeated right now, which is kind of crazy to think about. But that's kind of like the same. That kind of goes for like it's the same. Like this feels like the same team then. Like it's the same. Like they're barely winning games, or what I'm saying. Like they are just pulling it out of their ass. One would say. But yeah, no, definitely running back, corner, definitely going to be something they'll have to look at. Hawkinson's there for a little bit. They signed him a big extension. So they have the weapons on offense, that's not a doubt, but they got to work on this defense. Definitely one of the more weaker defenses in the league. Speaking of a weaker defense, we got the Broncos. They're getting Kareem Jackson back, and they are, on a good roll here. And they're actually considering, playoffs here. I mean, they have the team to make do in the playoffs. Like they have, Russell. If Russell Wilson continues to play how he's playing, there's no reason they can't play. It's the problem with their defense, and I think most of it comes down to not Vance Joseph really, but just younger guys stepping up on defense. Some of the guys that they've drafted, they just don't have those players yet, and all the guys they drafted on defense were a little bit later. I would have liked them to actually address the defense in the draft, but they're going to definitely do that this year. I think Jerry Jeudy's stagnant in his career. I don't see him taking another step. Courtland Sutton, he's good, but he's not a good. I don't think he's a number one on a championship team. I think just like Michael Pittman, who we'll get into a little bit later, they're number twos on a championship team, in my opinion. They're really good wide receivers, but they're not the alpha. No defense is going to be scared of Courtland Sutton or Michael Pittman like they would like someone like Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins, or Devontae Adams, right? So you're not game planning for these guys. So I mean, nothing's saying they can't go get another wide receiver in the first. I don't know if they have a first round draft pick. They should. They probably don't. I don't know if they got rid of it in the Russell Wilson trade. Anyways, one of their first picks probably could be a wide receiver. I don't think Broncos fans would be too heated about that. But again, we know they should address the defense in the draft, and I don't think they'll make any type of splash later down the road. Maybe they make the playoffs. Like the Raiders are also in playoff contention, which is crazy. Both these teams looked horrible to start of the year when we thought they'd make bigger strides, even with some QB concerns heading into the season. Hold on. We got the Chiefs up. which is a very odd spectacle. They've always been noticed. They've always been known for their offense, and now it's kind of like their identities on the defensive side of the ball. Uh, One of the fastest defense, and you can thank the Chiefs GM. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but definitely did a great job acquiring speed and acquiring different type of assets. This team's looked way better, and a lot of the players have taken a step up, that necessary step, because this defense has always been kind of mediocre. Unfortunately, the wide receiver pass catchers have not taken that step up, and no one has solidified themselves as number one on this offense, other than obviously Travis Kelce. But if he has his off games, or the team or the defense has a good game plan for him in the middle, then the Chiefs are kind of screwed, simply because they don't have a formidable wide receiver on the outside that can play make for them. I mean, this is why they've been running multiple 2 tight end, 2 wide receiver sets, getting all the all 3 of the tight ends in there, Watson and oh gosh, I can't remember the other guy's name on top of my head. But anyways, they've been getting all the tight ends in there, ensuring that, that playmakers will get on the field, because their tight ends have been making more plays than their wide receivers, which is a bad thing. We thought they'd go try and make a splash move in the trade deadline. Unfortunately, Raiders weren't selling, and they definitely wouldn't have sold to Chiefs regarding, obviously, Devontae Adams. So, I don't know. But like we said earlier on, yesterday, the Chiefs can win the Super Bowl even with this type of offense, just because their defense is there and they have Patrick Mahomes. That's kind of all it kind of boils down to. Yeah, I mean, during the draft, maybe they go out for a wide receiver, but they just haven't been known to do something like that. They haven't had really good number one. And it's been a while since they've had a great number one. I mean, they had Tyreek. But Eagles are in a good spot. I think Jalen Hurts is having a good year, not absolutely great, but he's doing what he needs to do. And they're winning games. They're 8-1. So I think the secondary needs to be addressed. For sure. I mean, they tried. Howie Roseman's a good GM. He knows what his weakness is. He knows how to build upon his strengths and build upon his weaknesses. I mean, like, they're constantly getting D linemen all the time, developing them, and they already have other D linemen, like Sweat, Cox, like they continue to, like, Hassan Reddick, like they continue to add defensive linemen even though they have some vets in there, and I love that. I love that fact about Philly, that they're very big on depth. That secondary is going to hurt them at some points. Thankfully, they didn't hurt them too bad when they played the Dolphins. It could have been worse. I just think the Dolphins didn't come in. Their offensive line didn't come in to play as well, and that's kind of what hurt the Dolphins. And the Dolphins definitely need to adjust the O-line heading down the stretch. But I think the Eagles definitely, they're definitely a contender. They'll be fine. But if they want to continue this, foster a winning culture, they need to address some of their weaknesses, getting down, and then also at the same time developing young guys behind these vets that they already have. Like, you're gonna have to start drafting O-line for sure. I know this is one of the best O-lines in the league, but you're gonna have to start doing it. That way, guys can develop under these amazing talents, and then when they're ultimately retiring, you guys will be ready. Got 4 more teams. Shoot, it's coughing. We have the Patriots. The Patriots are not at all where they want to be. I think next year you see a new face at QB. But again, there's not really anybody that, you see on that team and you're like, yeah, we need to keep him. They need to retain him because he's just too talented. That's not the case on this team. Maybe you argue Matthew Judon, but again, he's a veteran. He's getting old, and his contract is expiring. So they definitely need to hit the reset button. And, hey, man, if that means firing Bill Belichick, that means firing Bill Belichick. And maybe that means, in my opinion, if Robert Kraft goes through with that, he needs to fire a lot of the staff as well. And that's totally on Kraft, which is crazy to think about. Like, this man has all the power in his hands to make this decision because he could definitely hit the reset button. He's got to either go 100% on the reset button or he's got to go 0%. No in between. Okay, after Patriots. Run sucks. Dude, my nose is so annoying. All right, so with the Saints, their offensive play calling has been weak. You think you're kind of limiting this offense. I mean, they have some of the pieces. I mean, Kamara doing what he needs to do. Good little three tandem they have with Thomas, Shaheed, and Olave. I wouldn't be too upset if they went to go get another pass catcher in the draft. But I think this defense is fine. They do have a lot of moving parts in the sense that a lot of their contracts are expiring. So whether they decide to retain a lot of these guys could be up to the GM. But where I think they need to make a change is they definitely need to bolster this O-line, which, again, they have been trying to address. But a lot of these guys, they just haven't been hitting on. Trevor Penning comes to mind. I think they need to find that, that solid lineman like their Teron Armstead that they had multiple years ago, but they just don't have that as of now. I think this is a good team. I just think they're kind of limited by their coaching. And, again, Derek Carr, we know what to expect from Derek Carr. He's not going to show us anything more than he has already shown us. So, definitely looking towards a future QB in the next couple years. But maybe you keep him next year. Maybe you keep Derek Carr next year, but Derek Carr's not going to be here that too long. Lastly, we got two teams, the Colts and the Falcons. Colts, again, AR is your guy. We've seen him. Don't have to worry about it like we have to worry about Bryce Young. So keep building around him, and maybe that concedes into getting someone like Marvin Harrison or Romeo Duze or Xavier Worthy or like some of these top tier wide receiver talent. And but I think the Colts have to address the O-line as well. It's going to be a lot on offense. I mean, their linebackers have been playing so amazing. But again, outside of Kenny Moore, what are you going to do with your secondary? That's something they need to definitely address. They've been trying to draft there, but nothing's been working out for them. I think they need to make that step and just draft a corner in the first round. I mean, honestly, to be honest with you. I can't tell you the last time they've done something like that. They tried with Stephon Gilmore, tried signing a big guy in free agency. It was fine. He had a little tenure there, but not their next outside corner. You know, like a lot of these first round guys have been. I mean, for their respective teams. I mean, a lot of these corners have come out the gate being good already. I mean, the last couple years, I mean, to name a few, you got Sauce Gardner, Devon Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter. I know he wasn't first round, but he was 32. I mean, that's pretty much first round. And he should have been drafted higher, but I digress. I mean, it's just, like a lot of these corners can come in and be immediately impactful for your team. So I don't see why. And I mean, I get it. This draft class is corner-wise is not like there's not really a blue chip prospect. One of your best guys is Kool-Aid McKinstry, and I don't see him as a blue chip. So, hey, I mean, you got to try it out, though. I mean, a lot of people doubted Sauce Gardner, and he has been balling out. He's not playing as well as his first year, but he's definitely a reliable corner, and it's only his second year. Lastly, we have the Falcons. I think you start out by firing Arthur Smith. Call me crazy, but do it. Feels like he's limiting them. I think it was a combination of Arthur Smith and Desmond Ridder that's been kind of the cancer of this team. Kyle Pitts is limited. Bijan Robinson is limited, and not only is he limited, but he's not being utilized correctly, just like Jahmyr Gibbs was in Detroit, and now they're starting to get on that train. It just, why are you have so much talent, so much athleticism, and you don't use it correctly? Oh, my gosh. And then, they're designing plays for Jonnu Smith, who's their second tight end, who they just brought in for like a couple mil. Unless, I don't know, they see something in practice that none of us are seeing about Jonnu Smith. Like, is he on the come up? Like, what's the deal here? You have all this first round talent here, sitting here, their whole lot. Look, they've been drafted first round offensive weapons till I can't remember. Like, I other than their quarterback, like, everyone's been drafted in the first round, and I just don't understand why you don't use that first round talent that's clearly there. I mean, we've seen all these guys make amazing plays, but you have to utilize them correctly and open things up for them and spread it out. Get them all the ball. Like, come on. Like, this is horrible. I just don't get it. This defense always been kind of mediocre. I mean, they tried doing stuff in free agency, which was cool, but I think they're still going to have to kind of hit a little bit of a reset on the defense here with guys like Calais Campbell and Jesse Bates probably not going to be here long term. Is what it is. It sucks because this team has really good talent on the offense. And they could carry the defense, to be honest. But when you have someone like Arthur Smith limiting like the absolute heck out of all these players, it sucks. I think they need to address the quarterback position. Maybe in this draft there's a good bit of QBs in this draft, and I haven't looked at their schedule yet, but I do see a chance at them, losing out on a bunch of games here and being in a prime spot for a top QB. Anyways, it's all 32 teams. I appreciate anybody for staying and going through this nonsense with me and listening to my deepened voice from this sickness. Uh, I'll try to do another one of these, but man, we're in the final stretch, about a month out from graduation, so a lot of shit is gonna about to go down. So we're gonna have to see if I can pull one out while I'm, not super busy. Thankfully, I got my capstone project done for my honors program. Not fully done, but I got the draft done, so I can take a little breather on that, and I don't have to sit there write thousands of words in a couple days. So I I want to be back here. I want to keep doing this. A lot of you guys have been talking about, oh, when are you gonna do the next one? When are you gonna do the next one? So we'll try. We'll try to continue this, and because this studio is very nice, and I only have a month left of it. So, and who knows what I'll be doing when I get back home. Anyways, I'd like to say peace out. So, peace out, boys.